Hey guys, welcome back to Pretty Deep Podcast. We are so excited that you are back. So last episode, Petra and I touched on mental health, anxiety, and a little bit of our journey overcoming some of those panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And in this episode, we wanted to dive a little deeper into our lives and our childhoods.
Sounds good.
So
Here we go. One thing we said last time is that we're like same person in two different bodies, right? We have so much in common when it comes to our nervous system, when it comes to our traumas, when it comes to our anxiety and so on. Also good things, of course. That's not the only thing we have in common. But
what do you think it was for you in your childhood that caused you to have anxiety and a fragile nervous system?
I think we were both born in Yugoslavia. I'm a little bit younger than you, so I was about 2 years old when the war ended. But the thing with me is my mom is Serbian and my dad is Croatian. Same, yeah.
But I was born in Bosnia,
You were born,
Yugoslavia,
yeah.
then Bosnia, and you in
Croatia. Yeah. So, you know, because my mom was a Serbian, my mom was born in this village called Skradin, a little town called Skradin in Croatia. And all the villages around that town were predominantly Serbian. Mm-hmm. So my mom was born in a Serbian village. So when the war started, my mom left the village when she was like 19 years old. So that was way before the war. So she left when she was 19, and then the war happened, and my mom's parents, so my grandmother and my grandfather, they stayed in that village for the whole 5 years of the duration of the war.
Wow.
And that village or that whole area was the most affected in Croatia. Because, you know, we don't have to get into that. It's very complicated. But anyway, so my mom's parents, they stayed in that village throughout the whole 5 years of war. And obviously I was born in 1993. And my mom, obviously she wanted to see her parents during the war. It didn't matter to her, you know. But I have to mention that my grandparents did not want to leave the house because they were afraid that Croatian army is going to take over the house like they did with so many families, and they burned the house, you know, the stuff that had happened. So my mom was visiting her parents throughout the whole duration of the war, and she would bring me there as a baby. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting, like, even though I was like maybe 2 years old, I do have a memory, like very vague, very foggy memory of us being in the basement of that house, and the grenades were flying all over our heads and bombs. And I remember my mom was trying to make that experience as fun experience. So she would be like, oh, boom, boom, yeah, there, you know, it's fun. But for me, being a year and a half or 2 year old, that's when your nervous system develops the most. Mm. And traumas that happen during that time they have a great impact on PTSD and how your nervous system gonna develop later in life.
So you're saying when you're what, 2 years old?
I was 2 years old, yeah.
And that's when your nervous system develops?
Well, I think your nervous system develops even when you're in mom's womb, which is very interesting because the pregnancy that my mom was pregnant before me, right? She was pregnant with a baby, and she miscarried that baby when she was 5 months pregnant. Mm-hmm. So when I say that I was already born with a fragile nervous system, that's what I mean. It's the fact that my mom lost the baby a year before she would get pregnant with me.
Okay.
So that experience had great impact on my mom. So throughout the whole pregnancy with me, she was very stressed out, probably. She was probably worrying about my well-being, or is this baby going to be okay? So I think that was already my first probably trauma while I was still in my mom's stomach.
Yeah,
right?
I just read somewhere that when mothers who are pregnant have chronic anxiety, that gets passed on to the baby.
Absolutely.
So the baby is already going to be born with a fragile nervous system.
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened with you.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, was it the first time in Milan that you felt anxious that you were talking about the last
I
episode?
think by that time, so I was 19. So by the age of 19, I probably did experience some form of anxiety for sure. But it wasn't as typical anxiety. It was more like, oh, my stomach hurts. Oh, I don't want to go to school. I'm nauseous. I don't feel well. I also got bullied in a school, you know. So
What did you get bullied for?
I was always too skinny.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's what you got bullied for?
Yep. Kids were calling me bad names, like, you know.
Like a stick
Like
or-
a stick and on a wheels and stuff like that, which is so funny right now. But yeah, that was, they bullied me because of my looks.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
crazy how at that time they're bullying you
Yeah.
for being too skinny, then girls are getting bullied for being too
No, it's crazy.
overweight.
Yeah.
And
So
Yeah.
that on top of these two traumas, that was probably another trauma. So, you know, it was just kind of piling up like crazy. So yeah, that was my experience with the war. And, you know, I really didn't talk to my mom about it as much. I don't want to, you know, touch that wound. But one of the biggest reasons why I am the way I am today, it's probably because of that. At least that's what my therapist thinks. And having a dad that I had, he is, you know, he has very fragile nervous system, my dad. I mean, he has his own traumas that we don't have to get into, but that's that generational trauma, right?
generational trauma is so real.
Yeah,
And people,
that's why we gotta do better before we become mothers. Like, we really have to. That's why it's important to work on ourselves.
you are so right.
Yeah.
You know, I thought about that the other day and I'm like, if I ever have kids, I would hate to be pregnant and have anxiety.
Yeah.
And just pass that on, you know, because that generational trauma is so real and we have to learn to address it and we have to talk about it, which from where you and I come from, it's not easy to talk to our parents.
No.
It's so hard to get into the harder topics, the more deep conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they get into this defense mode, you know. And if you tell them, well, you know, I have trauma from when this and this happened, they feel attacked.
Yeah.
Because they feel like, you know, they didn't do a good job as parents.
Yeah. I mean, not to put my mom on spot, but yeah, that's what happened to me like a couple of months ago. I was telling my mom about this trauma that I experienced, another one, and that I just told her about. She never knew about that. And she was like, oh, we all have traumas. It's fine. You know, very dismissive, very, but again, I don't blame her. I do not blame my parents. My parents all of our parents did the best they could, right? I mean, we can't blame them. We don't gain nothing from that, from blaming them, you know?
I think when you get to a point where you understand people and you understand how trauma works, you start having empathy. It's this like newfound understanding of why people do certain things the way they do them. And I had that happen to me, like with my own parents, without ever talking to them about it, which, you know, I love to have deep conversations. But even if they're not there yet, right? I can understand them because of all the things that they had to go through, you know, starting with the war and then just...
Even with their own childhoods.
With their own childhoods, which I will, you know, not go into their childhoods because that is their story to tell.
Yeah.
But knowing that they did their best with what they knew was best for me is enough for me to, I guess I could say, forgive for everything that I would have done differently.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to have compassion in life with everyone, with just everyone, and empathy. And I'm guilty of sometimes, you know, not understanding people myself. So it's so important to just understand people on a deeper level, because I guarantee you there's something there. There's something underneath if somebody's being mean to you.
Absolutely.
If somebody's having a bad day.
Nobody's born mean.
Exactly.
I don't know, like a mean baby.
I know.
Nobody's
I think,
born mean. It's how your reality shapes you.
and
your
I think,
environment.
you know what I think is the most powerful and the most strongest person? The person who can stay calm in every situation. That is the most, that's a person I envy, because you could be the strongest, you can have the biggest muscles in the room, but if you lose it, the second that something goes against your ego, or like your defense system goes up, you're not strong.
Yeah, it's self-control.
Self-control is so important. And if you are in the room with someone and they tell you something about you, you know, they're projecting basically, and they say, well, I don't like how you do that, and I think you made a mistake, and I think you're too skinny. And you just, if you come from a place of understanding that, number one, they're probably projecting, and number two, they're probably just not happy people.
No, because...
And you don't react to it. I think that's it.
Yeah. You're projecting from yourself, how you feel. You're not going to be mean if you're feeling happy with yourself.
Yeah, I always...
You're not going to be judgmental if you're not judgmental towards yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, and everybody that you meet, even your partner and your friends, they're all our mirrors.
Oh my God, girl.
Yeah.
Now you're killing me with that. That is so
but it's
true.
so true. I mean, whatever you see in yourself, you see in other people.
So tell me about how you think mirroring actually works. Because somebody told me recently that I was their mirror, and I'm like, I'm not.
Well, that's a good question. I feel like I had this realization about the partner that you end up choosing for yourself. You know how people say, oh, it was love on the... I mean, do you believe...
Love at first sight?
Love at first sight?
Oh, that's a tough question, because I actually believe that we live multiple lives. We live
So you believe in
many times.
soulmates?
So I believe in soulmates. I feel like you can find a soulmate in this life that you were with in some other life.
But my question that I asked myself like the other day when I was thinking about this, I was like, do we really have soulmates? Or do we find a person that is like a perfect for ourselves in a way that they're great for our nervous system, they're great for our needs?
But why are they great is the question.
I think they're great. It depends how you and I are programmed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What was the realization that you had the other day?
That I just asked myself that question. I was like, do we really have soulmates? Or do we think that we found our soulmates based on how well that person works for us?
Yeah, but I think for someone to be your soulmate, you have to feel that closeness to that person, and your nervous system, like you say.
But my question is, why do we feel that close?
Because they're your soulmate. That's what I think. I don't think you would feel that way unless they're your soulmate. Because I mean, have you felt that with like multiple people? Because that's also, they say that people can have multiple soulmates in their lifetimes, and not necessarily romantic soulmates. Somebody else can be, you know, like
friendships
as well, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Is that really true? Because we're soulmates in like it's written in universe, God wrote that. Or we think we put the soulmates as a label on something that you just found a person that perfectly works with your characteristics, with your needs. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
That's a great point, but I think that person is your soulmate. You know what I mean?
No, you have your point, but I'm trying to...
No, I understand what you're saying. Like, it just works because you feel good next to that person. But it's not just about feeling good.
So you actually believe in soulmates, that it's written in by God or whoever.
I think that if you feel that closeness to someone, you know, that can be friendship, like we talked about. But if you feel, if it checks off many boxes, some of them which you never thought were possible, like, you know, you feel so close with to this person, you look into their eyes and you feel like you've known them for way longer than you have. You sleep so well and amazing next to them. Your nervous system is so calm. You can have deep conversations for hours on end and talk about life and the stars and the moon and everything. And you have, if it's a partner, you have the most amazing sex, like you feel like your souls touch and all this, then I think it's a soulmate.
Yeah.
But then if you're just more of, you know, like you and I think we're also soulmates in a way, because we always say we're the same person. Like I get you and you get me. Like, and there's times, you know, when we're traveling, I don't talk to you, I don't see you for 2 months.
Yeah.
And when I see you, we pick right back up, you know, like we were just together. So I like to believe in soulmates.
Yeah,
but
no, me too. Absolutely. I just had that kind of like, I wouldn't say aha moment, but it was just like, I wonder if that's really truth or it's more like, you know.
And soulmates also challenge you. They challenge you, and like you said earlier, you mirror them. So they'll show you what you need to work on, and they'll strip you of your high walls you have around yourself, you know, and your fear of not getting hurt and not doing it all over again. And I think most people don't find their soulmate in this lifetime. I don't think it happens to everyone. And I think it's something you have to earn. I think you have to really get past a lot of the traumas, and you have to really learn what you need to address within yourself. You have to read, you have to really earn that. Because if you don't do that, it can be right in front of your eyes your whole life and you'll never recognize it.
Yeah.
Like you just won't know. You know, they can be right in front of you, but you're like, you know, all these walls
you're so
of
blocked.
Yeah, you're so like your vision is so foggy because of the fear of loving somebody again, or just being vulnerable and giving your heart to somebody. So you're not going to see it. And that's why I think it's very important to get yourself to be so happy alone before you can actually meet somebody
Absolutely.
that will be your soulmate. Because most people don't do the work. Most people I know, like think of like 10 people you know right now. And how many of those people, and maybe because you're spiritual and you know a lot of spiritual people, but how many of those people really work?
Maybe 2.
Exactly.
If.
For me, it's maybe 1 if. So if you don't work on yourself and you don't love yourself when you're alone, if you can't look in the mirror,
Oh, that's such a good point.
you won't ever find a soulmate. You won't see it. And I actually remember meeting an A-list celebrity here in LA, and we all went to this like big party together, and he's like one of the most famous people in the world. Successful, famous, rich, you know, can have anyone he wants. And you probably know who I'm talking about. And he said, he was talking to somebody and I overheard him saying, I just hate being alone. I don't even want to be here at this party, but what can I do? It's better than being home alone.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, how sad.
That's crazy. So you have all the money in the world, you're famous, because that doesn't mean shit.
It doesn't. It doesn't. If you don't have the inner peace, you know how they say inner peace is the new rich?
Yeah.
It's so true.
It is new rich.
If you don't have that, if you don't look at yourself in the mirror and you don't like what you see, all your money and all your fame are going to mean absolute shit.
Nothing.
Are going to mean nothing.
Yeah.
So I think the most important mission for most people in this lifetime is to learn how to love themselves.
Yes.
To tap back into that enormous, enormous power that they have and their gifts from God.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing that my therapist always tells me. It's, Petra, did you love yourself today? Did you wake up today and did you tell yourself 10 times in the mirror, I love you, I love you, I love you? Because I can tell just by looking at you, you didn't do that. And I was like, shit, like I really didn't, you know. It's a hard thing to do. Like try. Like people who are listening to this, just try. Go to the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I love you. Like look yourself deeply in the eyes and be like, I love you. I love you. It's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, I remember seeing even Kendall Jenner saying that she like printed this picture of herself when she was little and she put it on in her bathroom on the mirror. So every time she comes there in the morning to like wash her face, she would see it and she would tell this little girl that she loves her and that she would do whatever she has to do that day for that little girl.
That's a good idea.
It's a very good idea, and it's so important to actually work on that self-love. You know, because you can have the most perfect person for you sitting right in front of you. And if you don't think you deserve it, you won't get it. If you know how they say you
won't appreciate it.
You know how they say you accept the love that you think you deserve.
Yeah.
And you know how a lot of women and men get stuck in these toxic relationships. It's like one after another. It's just a different person.
The same pattern, yeah.
But it's the same pattern. It's always toxic, and it's always, you know, a lot of fighting and back and forth and who's texting who first, and all of that is just unhealthy patterns of unhealed people.
And that's what I mean when I say we choose our partner, we choose our friends based on our own beliefs and
Of what we deserve.
Right? You would never choose a partner who would beat the shit out of you or who would be an alcoholic, right?
No.
You wouldn't, and it never happened to you.
No.
Same with me. You know?
Goes back to self-love.
It goes back to you and self-love, and people women especially, they don't like to hear this. Like if you're in a toxic relationship, it's a harsh truth, but it is your fault.
That is so true.
It is your fault. And choosing to stay with that person over and over again, it's lacking of self-love, and especially then, it is your fault because you're choosing that over and over and over again. No matter how hard it is, you have to choose yourself, man.
So true. And I understand that sometimes it can happen, you know, for the first time, you didn't see it coming. You didn't
absolutely.
think, you know, you didn't know this person was crazy or, you know, an alcoholic or this or that. But if you have that pattern and it's one after another, and I know so many women, like especially like the industry I was in, like before bottle service, and you know, a lot of beautiful women in LA who are models, and they would just be in these relationships. It's like the same thing every time, you know, and so much energy going into it, like calling and texting, and like you see them like on their phone like this, like they're going crazy, and I just literally I'm like, oh my God, that energy could be used for such good, amazing, positive things. You could be making your dreams happen with that energy that you're using to be arguing with this guy all day.
But you know what? Some people love that.
Well, that goes back to
what is the problem.
Exactly. And it's almost like they love that because it's attention.
Yeah.
It's attention that they didn't have as a child or as an adult, or they feel like they have to have this kind of attention, someone arguing with them, blah, blah, to feel validated. And that's so twisted and such a wrong way to look at things. I personally, I don't allow that kind of behavior, and I'm out. Yeah. Like if that happens, I'm out, you know?
Because that's not you.
The second you mistreat me to a point of no going back and you betray me, which has happened to me, I will, once I make that decision that I'm done, there's nothing in this world that you can do as a friend or as a significant other to get me back, because you are in your power. You know you deserve better. You know that you give the kind of love that's not an everyday love. And if you don't get it back day after day, there will come a time where you're going to be like, I'm done. And that's just going to be it. And it's going to be hard, and you're going to go through it. You know that clip of Angelina Jolie? I love that clip so much when she said, you have to go right through it. Because
there's no way around it. Yeah.
There's no way around it. You got to go right through it. And I realized how many people walk around feeling nothing. You know how many people walk around feeling numb? They feel no emotions. They're taking pills. They're numbing themselves with alcohol, with drugs. Because
it's hard to feel those emotions.
What we talked about earlier, it's hard to feel those emotions. No, I don't want to feel them, but guess what? I had to. And there was a time in my there was a time in my life that for a year and a half, you know, I was going through it. You know, I was going through a horrible breakup, and you know, there's so many nights I cried myself to sleep because I wanted things to be different. And it's like then you have this like feeling of wishing so badly that just your love could fix things, but it couldn't, and it can't. You know, it takes two people to tango.
Do you think you can fix another person?
I don't think you can fix another person. I think the person has to want to fix themselves. And most people don't. Most people pretend like they do. Most people will say that they want to, but when it comes to the work and feeling all those nasty emotions that we don't want to feel, they check out.
And they take kind of like shortcut, or
they take shortcuts, or they find like somebody else as soon as possible to distract themselves, or they take, you know, drugs, alcohol. But those are all just distractions. And I mean, I had to really learn this the hard way, that I have to feel everything.
I definitely want to hear more about that breakup that you went through. I think we can discuss that in our next episode.
Yeah, let's dive deep into it, girl.
Thank you guys for watching. See you soon.